Now what will it be? Death or exile?
Welcome everybody to another episode of the TV Exiles, this time looking at episode 2 of the final season of Star Wars: The Clone Wars. My name is Chris, and this episode is called A Distant Echo, and I really enjoyed this episode. But I'm not going to go through it alone. I'm joined by my fellow Exile Star Wars enthusiast, Brandon.
Hey, how's it going? Well, glad to be back.
Let's get into it.
Yeah.
So, Brandon, tell me about this this episode. Give us your general thoughts on Star Wars Clone Wars Episode 2 of the final season.
I thought it was a great continuation. The characters became more fleshed out, which obviously continues to make the arc grow. The inclusion of Anakin this time around, I think, was a big improvement. And yeah, overall, I thought it was another great episode.
Yeah, my general thoughts are similar. I think it was a really strong episode. I'm going to go into different parts of the story in a while, but generally speaking, I think it was very solid, mostly ups and kind of a little bit of a down for me in the first half of the episode, which, well, let's get into it now. Basically, I really enjoyed the start. I think everything with Anakin and Padme and Obi-Wan and Rex, I think it was brilliant. Incidentally, I've seen recently the Legacy episode, and that, for anybody who listened to our previous episode, will know that these are basically finished episodes from the original run back in like 2013, where the episodes were complete but not finished and published. So they've taken these old episodes and kind of retrofitted them to complete the story, but there are changes, and those changes are like, even basically at the start, every Clone Wars episode opens with a kind of a fortune cookie, a crawl, let's say, want for a better word. And the Legacy one was wars are not won with superior weapons, but with superior strategy. The new one, this episode, opens with the search for truth begins with belief. And I think this really encapsulates the episode of Rex's belief that he's going to find his brother Echo.
Absolutely, yeah. It's very fitting to what's going on inside the clone's head. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, again, knowing that the show is coming to an end, all these little tweaks are really help made to close out a story instead of just being another arc that was planned originally.
And the major change in this episode in terms of storytelling is in the opening act, really. We see Anakin talking with Padme, and you can kind of see Padme is holding her belly, the initial indications of her pregnancy with Luke and Leia. Then we find out that Obi-Wan really knew all along that there was something between them, and it kind of fleshes out episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, for me. Is there anything that you think was an improvement, or do you think it was an improvement over what we originally got?
Definitely. Again, the fact that they know that they're building towards episode 3, this scene was really great. Seeing Anakin and Padme, even though it was over hologram, but seeing them talk, and it brought back the Across the Stars John Williams theme, which, whether you liked episode 2 or not, John Williams themes were fantastic.
Absolutely.
And bringing that in just kind of reminds you that this is that Star Wars. It's not something separate. It is that. And then I was actually really curious when the original trailer came out, how she was pregnant, and he knew at that point or when this was. But when you watch it in the show, her pregnancy isn't as pronounced, so you could see how he might not notice it. It's over a hologram. It's from a different angle.
So like a little wink for us as the audience.
it's more of a wink that we can tell from our perspective, and we could tell by her holding her stomach, but we as an audience already know. It's one of those things you have to put yourself in that character. He has no clue. We've always known. So
Exactly.
but again, very, very good. And then to see that Obi-Wan knows, and he doesn't say anything negative about it. He drops that little hint. I hope you at least told her I said hello, to get Anakin knowing that he knows.
Yeah, that bit where she's holding her belly is just such a beautiful attention to detail by the creators. And we've indicated that we've seen the original Legacy episode. The difference is that this kind of interaction between Rex, Anakin, and Obi-Wan was not as interesting. It was basically Obi-Wan saying to Anakin, like, why are you going on this mission which the Jedi Council has said no to? Rex tells them that actually it's my idea. I think this new scene encapsulated the essence of that old scene, but made it so much better. As for the kind of less interesting aspects of the episode, in my opinion, it was when they landed on the planet and they came across this native tribe, and they were fighting, and it was again an indication that not all planets are participants in this war. Some planets are neutral, but I think we've got this so much. And the whole fight scene and all of that, we've seen in the previous episode how good the Bad Batch are. We'll see later in the episode how good the Bad Batch are. We don't really need to keep seeing things. I think that 5 minutes would have been better served with a little bit of storytelling, but not that it was bad in quality. What were your thoughts on that part of the episode?
Yeah, there was really nothing wrong with it, but it seemed like it was there to get a little bit of action, to get people that maybe have a little bit shorter attention span just paying attention. That hook. Oh, here's a quick action scene. It happens in movies, it happens in other shows. There was nothing egregious about this. It wasn't necessary, but I'm not offended that it's there. Yeah. It's nothing that I rolled my eyes at. It was just like a little more story could have been nice, but I didn't think it was bad necessarily.
Yeah. No, it wasn't bad. I mean, for me, if the ship landed and we cut straight to the hilltop overlooking Fort Anaxis and we got that discussion with Anakin and Rex, that whole interaction there was just brilliant. Like, this whole discussion carries on from what Padme said to Anakin, that you have to trust Rex. When you're flying off the hook, Rex is there by your side, and now it's your turn to stand by his side. And that fits so much in with with some original 10-year-old lines of dialogue that Rex was giving, about, like, I've seen so many of my brothers die, you don't have to worry about me, like, this isn't new territory for me. And it kind of hits home how cheap the life of a clone really is. Like, this guy has seen hundreds of his brothers die, but he's still going on. And it's crazy. Like, we lose one person and our lives fall apart, you know what I mean? But he's gone through so much loss, and it's a real eye-opener. That was probably one of my favorite parts of the whole episode.
And I mean, for what it's worth, it really does show the difference between the prequel trilogy with the clones, so episodes 2 and episodes 3, and Clone Wars was when you watch the episode 2 and 3, the clones are nothing. They're disposable. They are objects that were built to fight a war. You don't think anything of them. You don't think they have feelings.
Yeah, they're basically droids.
They're weapons. They're basically battle droids with plastic armor. Yeah. It's really not that big of a deal, but in this, and especially you get to see not only how the war has weighed down on them. His job is to stay strong, and his job is to be a leader, but it doesn't mean that he's going to be okay when he sees his brother's tortured or murdered in front of him. But it also shows that, Anakin understands that this is just more than just a tool of war. This is his friend.
Yeah.
This is his brother in a sort. And, they have been fighting for years side by side and trusting each other. Yeah. They are not just cannon fodder. And I think that's one of my favorite things of what the show is as a whole has done, is clones are people. They're not just a tool. They are a person.
Yeah.
And I guess the movies did right, because that's how most people would have looked at the clones. They're just disposable. So the movies weren't wrong in showing it. They didn't have time, but there's always a debate on whether these count as people or not. And the show shows us that, yes, these are actually people.
Definitely. So then we get down to Fort Anaxis, where they're looking for Echo. And I thought there was just a couple of brilliant bits of, little humorous bits there, where, for example, Tech is trying to open the elevator, and he's like, sorry for it taking so long, and it literally only took him like 3 seconds. You get this shot of Anakin looking at him like, damn, like, if that's long, what a shot, Then it's like they're going up the elevator, and you get this idea from Wrecker, like, oh, I don't do well with gravity, which is something that was mentioned earlier at the hilltop. And then when he comes out of the elevator, everyone's talking about, this is a covert mission, you got to be secretive, like, got to be quiet and all of this. And then Wrecker sees droids coming out when he comes out of the elevator, and he just goes bananas. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, so for me, I really liked Tech is really improving as a character. Not that he was bad at all anyway, but, he's showing a lot more heart. Wrecker's the one that kind of gets on my nerves, because there will, as much as this team is a smash and grab team that can go in and wreck anything, he's bound to get you in trouble, because he's a loudmouth. He doesn't necessarily follow instructions. His IQ is about a third of everybody else's. He doesn't seem like somebody that'd be wise to carry along on your mission.
I get it. I get it completely. What you're saying is just, I just find that ridiculousness a kind of a nice bit of levity. I just found it funny. But speaking of the droids, we got to see some new droids.
Yeah, and they're called D-Wing air support droids, and I thought it was. Again, it's kind of one of those two things. Looking at it from the outside, you're like, well, we're coming to the end. Why introduce new droids into this now? Like, what's the point? But from an in-world standpoint, they don't know the war is almost over. So why would they change their ideas of, creating new droids and always giving something new? They don't know this war is almost over. We do. They don't. So it makes sense that they would eventually encounter
continually evolving and trying to get better and stuff like that. Definitely. So we see the crew absolutely destroy hundreds of droids, like, with ease, like absolutely no difficulty. But eventually we get to Rex and Tech trying to enter the final room where they pick up the signal of Echo. Before they get in there, they kind of get like this little message from Wat Tambor, and he says, your friend is dead, his mind is ours. Which is kind of strange, because you actually see Echo when they get in there. They open the stasis chamber and he's in there, but it kind of poses the question for later episodes because of his appearance. He's really zombified, like he's grey, his eyes are twitching all over the place. Now, at the end, he does kind of communicate. Kind of snaps out of it, communicates, has more sentience, let's say. He's aware of his surroundings, he knows who Rex is, but he still looks a bit like a zombie. So with that line of dialogue, your friend is dead, his mind is ours, do you think there's anything in that going forward, that Echo might be actually dead, or
no,
he's basically dying, or do you think that we've got Echo back?
I think it's Echo back. He might be too far gone. I don't think that he's living dead by any means. I just think he's malnourished. He's been, in stasis for 2 years or however long now.
Since the Citadel, yeah.
Yeah, since the Citadel, and he's just he's a tortured soul. He's a it's to show the weight and what he's been through. It's it's almost like finding Sloth in Seven, where he kind of wakes up. He's still a person, but
yeah,
I mean barely. Obviously, this guy is not Echo is not as bad as Sloth was, but but yeah, I mean you could tell he's tortured soul, and he snaps out of it a bit at the end, but. Is his mind still going to be there? What has he been through? How's that going to play? I'm not sure, but I don't think that he's truly dead. I think that was just Tambor probably trying to tell him that, you don't need to go any further. Like, you guys can stop.
Well, for those of you who are really eager to know, you can go forward to the next episode of the legacy episodes and find out, I suppose, but we're not going to discuss that. We don't want to spoil what's going to happen next. So what we're going to do is we're going to leave all of that and see if there's any changes actually from the legacy episode next week as well, and compare and contrast and see if there's still some changes like there were in this one. So Brandon, thank you for joining me again. Why don't you let the good people know where they can find you and talk some Clone Wars with you?
You can find me on Twitter at @the_meatball_84.
Sweet. And I've been Chris. You can find me at Finaldo7. Thank you for joining us. And until next time, stay exiled.